welcome all you factoids. I'm the muscle CJ Metal, and today I'm fluxing Throes of Joy in the Jaws of Defeatism by Napalm Death. Now I just want to share with you all something kind of funny. So for a long time, I thought that this album cover was a guy holding like a pair of lungs, like, human lungs, until I finally saw that it was a bird, like a pigeon or whatever it is. And that whole time, though, when I thought it was lungs, I was like, what the fuck do lungs have to do with defeatism and joy? It just confused me, and then I realized it was a bird, and then I was like, hey, it still makes absolutely no fucking sense to me, so I don't really know what the fuck the bird is supposed to represent. Anyways, released this year of 2020, Napalm Death delivers the goods, and even a little more than expected. Now, if you've heard Napalm's other album, Smear Campaign, you'll know that on there, they try to do some progressive stuff. It ultimately didn't work, and it's not just me who thinks that. It overall wasn't a very good album. With this album, however, Napalm again attempts to expand their sound, and I definitely think they managed to do it in a way that doesn't piss off old fans, and I think will also bring in some new fans as well. Barney Greenway still punches you in the face with his aggressive vocals, as he always does. And he seems to be pissed, which I'm sure fans will like very much, because, that's kind of what you expect from a Napalm Death record. Now, another thing that fans may or may not like is the strong leaning towards death metal on here. Now, if you've paid attention to Napalm over the years, you'll notice that they've started leaning pretty heavily towards death metal. And, of course, this album in particular seems to be leaning quite heavily towards that. However, that isn't to say that this album is completely death metal, because it's not. There is still grindcore on here, it's just to a lesser degree, which, of course, is fine with me, because I enjoy both grindcore and death metal is my favorite genre, so anything leaning towards death metal, I'm going to personally enjoy, but that's just me. But enough about the genres of this album, let's discuss the overall tone, which is kind of weird to say, because this is a Napalm Death record, and usually you don't hear the words tone associated with it, but there is one here for the first time in forever. No, I'm just kidding. But the point is, the band develops this kind of overall dark atmosphere on here, but it's a subtle darkness, if that makes sense. You can hear it if you listen closely. Now, this dark undertone was something that I don't think anyone was expecting. Even like hardcore Napalm Death fans, I doubt even knew that this was coming. However, this dark tone does add like a new layer to the band's sound, and shows that even after years, or actually even decades now, of playing and releasing so many albums, that even they still can expand their sound. And even grindcore in general, because really, grindcore can be clean or filthy, but you rarely ever hear anything that's necessarily dark in grindcore. Death metal, of course, there's dark death metal, that's nothing new, but in grindcore, that's something a bit different, and it'll be interesting to see if bands take notice, like grindcore bands take notice of this dark atmosphere that Napalm made on here, and see if they even want to attempt to create something like darker sounding grindcore, which I would be all for. So if someone wants to make some dark grindcore, go for it. I'd be down for it. Since this album was released earlier this year, it's received quite a bit of praise, and I've begun to see why. It's the Napalm Death music that you'd expect, but with some subtle changes to it, which again, I'm all for. Now, I will admit, not every single song on here is gold or platinum. In fact, some of them are bronze and others are silver. So obviously, this album isn't perfect, and it has some, I wouldn't say any of the songs on here are necessarily bad, but they could have been better. And with that in mind, I have to say that this album was good/great. To me, this album just kind of fell just short of being great, because I think because an album to me could still be great, even if it has like some duds, but I felt like this album had like one or two more that kind of pushed it down a little bit. But of course, that's just me. And one other little thing that I should probably mention that I didn't write down on my script here is that this album also has kind of a noise element to it, and that does contribute a little bit to the dark atmosphere on here. And again, it's something that Napalm Death I don't think has done before, and again, after decades of playing, you kind of expect a band to fall into like a certain groove and maintain their style, but Napalm Death is, even now, like decades later, is still expanding on their sound and music. So this dark atmosphere building and this noise element stuff is really interesting to hear, especially this late in the game when most bands would just be like, fuck it, we have our formula and we're sticking to it. So it'd be interesting to see if Napalm Death releases another album after this one, to see if they, build upon what they did on here. So it's something to look forward to in the future. And I'm excited for it, and it'll be interesting to see if the music now that Napalm's releasing will affect bands later down the line. So we'll just wait and see. This album, while I said is only good/great, I do appreciate the fact that Napalm is still trying to push the boundaries of grindcore or death grind or whatever you want to call them. So to me, it's just exciting to see like a big band like this still expanding. I personally think that's really cool. You may not think that's cool, but to me it is. Alright everyone, I think that's going to be it for today's review. Thank you everyone for liking and subscribing. Sorry for the kind of prattling I've done throughout this video. I just had a lot to say about this album. Anyways, hope you all having a great day. Stay safe out there. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure you tell a friend to do the same. And of course, as always, I will see you at the next review.